What's up, everybody? We're back with another episode of the Hobby with Cage. I think this is lucky number 13. It's funny, I came on here ready to spit fire today, and I still may. But as I got the recording ready, I looked at myself on the camera here. And I mean, I love looking at myself. I'm a good looking dude. But I look behind me at my usual brick wall, and I had to smile. Instead of spitting fire, I see that, the Happy Mother's Day pictures that my kids put up for my wife are still up there from 3 days ago when it was Mother's Day celebrating. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna leave it up there. I'm gonna leave it up there. We're gonna leave it up there for all the moms out there. A little happy Mother's Day. Might as well give it a whole week, give it a whole month, the whole month of May. Happy Mother's May. I mean, we'll just call it that. So, in case you're wondering what that says, you might not be able to see it. It says Happy Mother's Day. And it's up there in the back. When I get too angry today, when I get a little too nuts, I'm just gonna take a breath, look at that, maybe drink some of my 2-liter bottle of soda here, and just calm. So what am I spitfire about? Let's start. We give you a little preview of what I'm thinking. Trimming. Everyone's talking about it. And here's your hot take. Here's your clippable take. Anybody who's making a big deal about trimming now is someone who hasn't been in the hobby that long. And it's a hot topic now, but it's been a hot topic 500 times before. It is not something new to the hobby. The only thing that's new is that now there are influencers, there are talking heads like myself who are, going to opine about it. And the silly thing is that a lot of people opining about it, they're just giving oxygen to a fire that shouldn't be given that fuel to burn, right? I watched Evan Mathis' video. I watched that. And I said, I don't know why he's posting this. I don't know. Maybe some notoriety. I don't know. I still don't know. I listened to an interview with Evan Mathis. I don't know what the point of it was. I don't know what the goal is. Is it to say that the hobby is stained? Is it to say that we shouldn't trust any grading cards out there? I mean, what's the benefit to the hobby, to the industry, to the business of that? Is it really just to try to burn it all down? And if that's the case, that makes sense to me. But then you have to remember, if that's the goal, you have to take it with a grain, nay, an entire shaker of salt, or all the salt in the Dead Sea, that somebody would go out there with an attempt to try to take down the hobby, without ever actually naming a name or saying they've ever trimmed anything other than that ridiculous 1965 Topps card. So I guess the point I'll make on this, and we'll get to the influencer side of it in a second, is if you're going to start talking about trimming and, cast aspersions and do all this craziness about the hobby in and of itself in such an explosive way, you're going to show up with this flamethrower that you're going to burn the building down. You don't walk up with the flamethrower and then throw an unlit match and think that's going to do something. There have been scandals in this hobby dating back decades. There have been stories, rumors, innuendo. All one has to do is type in trimming into Google, card trimming. You're going to find blowout. You're going to find forums from all different card sites before even blowout. You're going to find all kinds of stuff. It's just part of the fiber of the let's call it the fabric of the hobby. Now, does that make it okay? No. But I think in anything that you spend time in, there are going to be bad actors. There are going to be people who are trying to do bad things. And then there are people doing their best to try to root that out. Nobody's perfect, not in any hobby. No graders are perfect. I think we're all probably, trying to get better at it. What I don't like, and now the shift, what I don't like is people shouldn't trim their cards. There you go. It's the first time I've heard anybody actually say that. You shouldn't trim your cards. Since this came out, I've heard people talk. I've heard people pussyfoot around. I've heard people tiptoe. I've heard people make statements like, well, the card is trimmed at the factory, isn't it? It's cut by someone. And so, well, if it's cut wrong, well, if you cut it, well, aren't you just making it the way that it's supposed to be? No, that's not right. Well, if some kid took a pencil to the back of a card and wrote, some stats on it or the jersey number, and you're now taking an eraser, aren't you just undoing something that was done to the card? No, don't mess with the card, right? The card should be the way that it came from the factory. The end. Finished, done, no more need for any type of additional definition of what you should or shouldn't be doing with the card. If you have a tube of Kurt's Card Care, I imagine you have other types of lubrication at your house as well. When you run out of that Jergens, just use the Kurt's Card Care for that. Don't mess with the cards. This is easy. I don't know why it's so hard and why we're having a conversation about how we should be. Well, restoration is okay. We need to talk about what we can and can't do with a card, and no, stop that crap. All right, let's stop. Why? The hobby is hard enough as it is, as a business, to attract people, right? It's unregulated, right? It's difficult to learn. We talk about things in this hobby that, once you've been in it for a while, it comes as second nature. The language that we use to talk about cards and grading and what we do here. But for a kid and or a new entrant to the hobby bringing money in, the stuff that we talk about as second nature is not. There is a learning curve. There is a significant learning curve. And the last thing that people should want, and I'm not saying don't be informed, 100% we should inform people. But the last thing that should happen is someone comes in wanting to spend money, wanting to enjoy the hobby, wanting to participate in this. They take the time to learn, to educate themselves about this. And then after educating themselves, all of the content that they're going to see out there is, well, now that you just learned everything, you should realize the whole thing is basically baloney because every card out there in a slab is trimmed. But we should be okay with that because it's part of restoration and other industries and other hobbies and other asset classes are okay with that. No, right? What we should be doing is grading companies are working to root this out, right? They are, right? They're not going to be perfect, but I'm sure that they're getting better. It's the same way. Has anybody ever seen the movie Catch Me If You Can? I mean, it's a Leonardo DiCaprio movie, right? He was a counterfeiter and he pretended he worked for Pan Am and he was running around and Tom Hanks is chasing after him because he's counterfeiting checks and he's counterfeiting. And ultimately he winds up working with the Secret Service who deals with counterfeiting because he was better than them, but they got better, and then the companies that are tasked with stopping this, they're the ones that learn. They get better at finding the trimming. They get better at finding the problem. Is it ever going to be perfect? No, right? But I think let's start by saying, all right, guys, let's not trim. And then if you find a trim card, right, take it out of circulation and a whole bunch of fun stuff. I guess what I'm saying on this one, my topic is let's just start from step 1. Right? Let's not jump into step 20 and talk about whether or not restoration is okay. Let's start with let's not trim our cards. Like, let's not try to make it okay. And if people are trimming cards, let's hope that they find them. Let's hope that, PSA and SGC and Beckett and DCI and ISA and CGC and whoever the heck else is out there, tag, is doing what they doing what they need to do to try to weed that out and make the hobby better for the 99% of people who are in it trying to have fun, trying to make a business out of it, trying to navigate the waters that are already rough without this extra crap. I can't even believe that I'm spending, this time doing it, but somebody has to say it, right? It's part of the hobby. It just is. Hopefully we get better at weeding it out. Hopefully we are better at weeding out the people who do it. We shouldn't be glorifying them. We shouldn't be, making it great. And by the way, before I move on topic, trimming is not just done on $1 million cards, $100,000 cards. It's not just Mickey Mantle cards that get trimmed. Trimming happens in all walks of life. It's the same reason why people will not just counterfeit $100 bills. Sure, they're not counterfeiting ones because it's not worth the time, the effort, and the material, right? But 20s, sure. And here's an example. Everybody ever heard of Bill Terry? You probably haven't heard of Bill Terry, right? Dude batted over 400 for a season once in 1930, I think it was. And he was a manager of the Giants when they were a New York team. And he's got a 33 Gaudy card. And back many, many years ago, I was trying to, build a Gaudi set, and I was buying raw cards, and I was out there, grading them and send them in for grading. And when you buy raw cards of an old set like that, things that aren't cut the same way, the sometimes you come across a card that was probably trimmed by somebody, and I'm gonna show you a card. So this is a Bill Terry 1933 Gaudi card. Okay, I paid $140 for this card. Probably overpaid, right? But I liked it. I bought it. And if you look at it, why I liked it, the centering, right? So, before eye appeal was a thing that you had to pay extra money for a sticker for, it was something that was easy to do. You just look at the centering, look at the color, look at the card. And that card was pretty nice to me, right? I mean, this is a Hall of Famer. You look at the edges. But what I learned from this was the edges are too perfect. I mean, check them out. Take a look at the 33 Gaudi cards, and you're going to notice cards that have an edge like this on one side are probably going to have a thicker edge on that side. Same thing, top, bottom. It's very rare you're going to find a card that has this perfect center of this edge, and also there's not enough edge. And I sent this card in for grading over a decade ago. I mean, I was building the set from like 03 to maybe 2008. All right. So, I mean, it's possible almost 2 decades ago I sent this in. I sent it for grading, came back trimmed. It happens. But notice this is what I have it. I didn't try to resend it in again. I didn't take this card and send it into another grading company. And I didn't take this card and sell it raw to somebody else. Right? I own a trimmed card. Pretty straightforward. Here it is. Right? I put it in a different pile. It stays in my cards that are cool. I own. It's probably not worth $140 now. But if I ever had this out for some reason and someone said I want to buy this, I would say this card is trimmed. If you still want to buy it, we can talk. But I want to make sure you know up front this is a trimmed card. I don't even know if I would even do that. Right? But it's a good learning, right? This was good learning for me because I was able to continue to buy more of these cards years after that and use this to compare it. I was able to use this. I was able to learn from this card here that this card was too small. I was able to, and this card, even the condition that it's in, trimmed, it probably would have graded a 5, but maybe it was a 2. And the difference in price is enough for somebody to go and mess with it. Point being, trim cards have been around for a long time. What we do, that's what makes the difference. I didn't take this card and try to say, oh, it's okay. Somebody's just cutting this the same way that it should have been cut out of the factory to make it nice. Think about it. The reason I bought it was because of the quote eye appeal of it. I liked it. The color was great. The edges looked good. The corners looked good. Well, there was a reason for that. Somebody messed with it. And now it stays in this little top loader, not slabbed, not trying to be pulling the wool over on anybody. And that is where it will remain. So anyway, guys, be careful when we talk about this trimming stuff, right? I'm not saying we shouldn't have the conversation. We 100% should. Here I am spending half an episode on the conversation itself. It's just what we do with that conversation that's important, right? There's a lot of people want to come into this hobby. And if every single day the content is going to be negative or look at all of this garbage that goes on. I'm not saying hide it. I'm not. Okay. I'm not saying, we got to just hobby positivity and hobby optimism. That's not the case either. I don't want people getting burned either. It's great to educate, but the education, it has to be more than, all right, well, let's just allow it. Let's just restore it. Everything's great. We should just do what all the other things do. Okay, fine. I think that shows a little bit of a lack of knowledge of hobby history. And, this is just something that happens. I believe that I will say the grading companies have gotten significantly better at weeding it out than they were. And, I'll have to leave it at that. I'm going to have some faith in some of the grading companies that are out there that are doing this. And are they going to catch everything? Absolutely not. But who does? In what industry is there no bad actor? There aren't any, right? So anyway, there's my 15 minutes on that. I've seen just so much talk about it. Trimming is just one of those things that happens, guys. This is not a new thing. I know it's new in vogue in content now, and this Evan Mathis thing is very interesting. Um, but I, to me, it's a bad look for the hobby. It just is, right? And I'll pivot there into another bad look of the hobby. I wish breakers would be a little less used car sally on certain products. It doesn't have to be every third day. Oh my God. The best product ever is releasing today. The best value for your money. You're going to have to buy. Insert product name here today. Anybody who doesn't buy this product is silly. It's the best time of year when insert product here gets released. It's my favorite product. It's my favorite. Anybody who buys, you back up the Brinks truck. Anybody who wants to brake should be braking. Insert product here, because this is the best product. You're going to miss out if you don't get into this product this week. You can basically clip that and insert product here every week. You lose some credibility there, I think, right? Why not be honest? Why not say, all right, this week we have clearly Donruss. It's not for everybody, right? It's not for everybody. And chances are when you break this, right, you're not, well, I doubt the breaker is going to say chances are when you break this, you're not going to make money. But hey, for the price point, you could hit something really big, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the right way to do it is, but I do know that when I watch a lot of these guys, I feel like I'm watching a carnival where the baskets are too small for the ball. I feel like I'm watching it on repeat. I feel like I'm watching, the same movie over and over again every week with a new product inserted in it. And to me, not every product could be the best product ever every week, right? So I came in today, like, Happy Mother's Day. It's just, oh man, be nice. And it's almost like an overview of the hobby itself. And I'm like, all right, like we got the trimming stuff. Is that people who would be researching the hobby now, they'd come in and they'd see trimming, then they see breaking. And if they jump in a break with, any random product for that week, chances are they're going to lose. They're going to not have a good experience. They're going to believe when someone says, this is the best product, you have to get in on this now. And they're going to break and they're probably not going to do well. And we're going to lose them. We're going to lose them because they're hearing that even if they buy a card in a holder, it's probably trimmed. We're going to lose them because they come in thinking they're buying the best product ever. And it's probably not. Maybe you guys got to brush up on the whole, like, boy who cried wolf thing. Negative. Sorry. I'm going down a rabbit hole. And let's continue down that rabbit hole. Where the hell are all the people who are pumping F1 cards? I don't see any F1 cards on my stream anymore. I don't see it anywhere. I watched the Miami Grand Prix this week with my son, last weekend. I watched it with my son, and it was a great race. I mean, it was awesome. There was a battle at the top. Verstappen came from like 10th and got into first and, had a great race that was setting it up. The two Red Bull teammates, based on their tires, were going to meet at the end. But then Verstappen had, ran such a great race and Alonso, what a great story is this year. Not Pete Alonso, but what a great story is this year. Even Hamilton and George Russell and Mercedes had a good race. Where is it? Like, where are all the people who were talking about that? Maybe they're hanging out somewhere with the people who were pumping up Marvel PMGs. Where's all the Marvel card people? What the hell happened? Seriously, what happened? Where did everyone go? It's an interesting thing to think about, isn't it? And it's an interesting thing to think about on your own, right? It's an interesting thing to think about, as you're buying and selling cards and as you're consuming content and as you're, researching and learning and thinking about your own journey in this hobby. Where are you getting information from? What is it that you enjoy? Do you really enjoy it? Or are you being persuaded to enjoy it? And also, you may like F1. You may like the sport. I'm enjoying it, right? I watch it with my son. Doesn't mean I'm going out there and buying cards of it. I got a neighbor who is a big Team Ferrari guy. I get to talk to him about the race and, make fun of him when Ferrari doesn't do well and gets a 5-second penalty. Doesn't mean we're buying the cards. I don't see anyone showing them off anymore. Where's all the Marvel PMGs? What happened to that? Think about that. They were everywhere. Is that just what happens when the market is booming? I mean, it's very possible, right? I mean, I was talking about NFTs and no one's talking about that anymore. I guess I'm part of the problem, right? And maybe that's the thing. Maybe, no one's talking about digital cards, although I've bought some recently. We're not talking about Panini Digital anymore or Top Shot. Maybe that's part of the story, guys. Maybe that's part of the story. Maybe as the market, grew and as everybody was making money hand over fist, everybody was expanding the fringes of what they would collect and what they would put their money in. And now as the hobby, I don't want to say contracts, but I guess that's the best word for it. Those fringe items, they're no longer in vogue and they're no longer talked about and they're no longer drawing clicks, views, and dollars. Tennis? I haven't seen anybody post that. There's some new release tennis coming out. I don't think anybody's talking about it. But you know what they are talking about? They're talking about Victor Wembanyama signing his autograph. That's it. They're talking about Victor Wembanyama signing his autograph. And I'm going to make a horrible prediction right now. I don't know if you guys saw this. What do you mean? I don't know if you guys saw it. Of course you saw it. Every one of you saw it. I'm going to take a sip. I'm going to pull one out actually for this. A little soda. Victor Wembanyama signed a card. Michael Rubin posted about it. He was, holding the card. And then every single hobby person, including myself, posted about it. It was like the hobby news du jour. And he wrote on the card, the first card I ever signed. Victor Wembanyama. This is the first card I ever signed. I think it was like number 11 of 99. I had to zoom in on it. I couldn't really tell. Here's my hobby prediction. That card never makes its way into a pack. It'll be a chase. It'll be a huge chase. People are going to be chasing Hasbullah's one-of-one card. People are going to be chasing the triple logo man with LeBron, Steph, and Luka on it with the diamond logo man on it. People are going to be chasing Victor Wembanyama's autograph, but they're specifically going to be looking for that one. Card becomes a one-of-one, right? That's the first card he ever signed. And talk about the provenance of it, the picture with Michael Rubin and the picture that's out there. I don't even believe it ever makes its way into a pack. It's just my prediction. Do I think that means Michael Rubin has it? Possibly. Do I think it means Victor Wembanyama kept it? Possibly. Do I think it means that, someone at Tops maybe, takes it the way the Pokemon stuff did? Maybe. Maybe they hold it back so that they can keep selling product. To me, it's just one of those things where it's too good to be true. And I think it just winds up not actually being inserted into a pack. That's my take on that one. So we'll rein it back in really, really quick, guys, because this was kind of a I don't want to call it an angry episode, but it's just, call it. Used to be Mondays when I had, my duo here, when I had my super partner. It was almost like a brain dump episode, right? I would be able to I'd be able to come on here and, what are you thinking about in the hobby? What are you thinking about? And what I'm thinking about is all the stuff. Thinking about lives with people. I saw a live with Jeremy Lee and DPZ. I love you, DPZ. Nobody actually saying anything, right? It's like, oh, let's talk about the trimming. Let's talk about it. Why? What you should say is there was a video posted about trimming. Trimming's bad, okay? And our grading companies are getting better and better at weeding it out. And if something gets by them and you think it's a trim card, you should be taking it and sending it back to them, right? Hey, guys, here's why it's trimmed. It shouldn't be, oh, well, because they're never going to catch it all, we should make it okay. In what world does that work? How's that ever the solution? Well, they're never going to know, so we should just be okay with it. No. So, fun stuff. I sold a card. We'll end on this because, again, negative. I I sold a card recently when I did my own little audit. I told you guys I don't just talk to you guys about it with the collection. I do it myself. And in Coffee with Cage on Friday, somebody asked me what card just barely made it, off the keep pack and into the sell pack, and it's Tim Duncan. So, guys, some usable content instead of just the gibberish that I've spewed out here in the first 25 minutes. Some usable stuff. It's okay to be wrong about something, especially given the last couple of years of this hobby, right? I've mentioned F1, I've mentioned Marvel, I've mentioned so many of these things that were hot when it was hot. Last year, after making some sales, I thought to myself, we did some top 5, top 10 conversations, right? I was, famously saying Kobe's not in the top 5 and getting crushed for that by the Kobe fans out there. But I did a whole bunch of research on it. I really did back up what I was saying. And, one of the things that research led me to was that Tim Duncan is not really appreciated as a player. And I thought to myself, all right, well, Tim Duncan's a top 10 player of all time, top 12, depending upon where you want to put it, top 15, definitely, championships, individual awards, team awards, stats. The dude, checks a lot of boxes. I said, well, why is it that his cards are selling for such a fraction compared to, Kobe's cards, even compared to like Iverson's cards, right? And I said, all right, well, that's going to fix itself. That's going to change. And it's a nice lesson learned on two fronts. Number one, you may buy high. Like when I was buying this in early 2022, May of 2022, remember I had just sold cards and was using the cards that I sold to buy into this. So had I not sold those cards and held those cards would probably be cheaper also. So it is what it is. You got to rationalize everything. But I was thinking to myself, all right, let me buy Tim Duncan. I bought it the wrong time because obviously almost everything is down from where it was when I was buying. Almost everything is down from where it was when I was buying. The hobby is not in the same spot. But also, my theory of, well, people are going to come to appreciate Tim Duncan, I don't know whether I agree with that anymore. As a matter of fact, I think Tim Duncan now, what I watch with the hobby being as fickle as it is, I think he's going to be forgotten. The same way that so many players from the 60s, 70s, and 80s were forgotten. I think, people are going to consider his game boring. And as the world changes and how we consume sports changes and how people collect and what they favor changes, my thought now is that it doesn't matter that he statistically was a top 10 or 15 player all time and is unappreciated. That may be the case. I just don't think anyone's going to care down the road because Tim Duncan didn't make them care. And there's a big difference there. People cared about Kobe, and people are always going to care about Kobe, not just because of what he did on the court. It's the way he did it, right? And what he did off the court. So it's interesting. It's just one of those constant learning things. And why I bring this up is because I sold one of my Tim Duncan cards last night. It's a card that I think I set a record price for, as a Rubies. And I sold it at a loss. And I'm happy to get out of it and take that money now and stack it and put it towards something else that I do want on my list of cards that I want to own and take with me to the grave. The Tim Duncan didn't make that card. And I have one more Tim Duncan card that I probably will be selling also. To the Duncan fans out there, you know who you are. I apologize. I'm not kind of, I'm not, telling you sell your Tim Duncan cards. I'm just saying this is my own thought process on it. Things change. Last year I was very high on Tim Duncan. This year I'm not. Next year I might be like, wow, what was I thinking last year? Tim Duncan's the man. I got to go buy his cards back. It's just one of those fun things. Yeah, it's just one of those fun things. All right, guys, lots of stuff bouncing around all over the place on this one. Trimmed Bill Terry's to what influencers and content creators are talking about and saying, to breakers, to predictions about Victor Wembanyama card. I really hope I'm wrong. I can't wait for that product to come out and see that card. It's just one of those like, hey, I have nothing to base this on. It's just, let me throw out a little prediction. I will end with this. Although I made fun of the fact that it was everywhere yesterday, when I showed that picture and the video that I made to my son, of Wembenyama holding the card that said, this is my first time. My son said, we have to break that product. I want to get that card. Mission accomplished. That's another episode 13, lucky number 13. Hope you enjoyed it. A little bit of a different vibe today. Take care, everybody.